Okay.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We're really excited for you to be here and learn a little bit more about Grapeseed. My name is Lori Metz. I'm an account manager with Grapeseed, so to sort of take care of the business end of things and work with clients. And then we also have Dr. Julie Baxa with us, who is a professional learning specialist with Grapeseed, and she knows a lot about Grapeseed. So any questions you have, she'll be able to answer. So with that, couple little things. Everybody, I think, already has their cameras off. We are recording this, so if you want to keep your cameras off and please mute. And then if you have any questions while we're doing the presentation, please just go ahead and type it in the chat box. And usually we end up getting to the questions at a little bit later in the presentation, but if we don't, we will definitely address it at the end. But again, thank you so much for joining us, and we're excited to tell you a little bit more about the Grapeseed program. So to give you just a little bit of history, Grapeseed's actually been around for a very long time. It was developed in Japan right after World War II. A group of actual Americans had gone over there and they started a school. Still there, it's the Maisen Academy, which is sort of a world-renowned school. And they basically set out to figure out the very best way to teach Japanese children English. And they worked with researchers and developers and linguists from all over the world. And that's how Grapeseed was developed. It's been, of course, being, made better and constantly tweaked, and with technology and everything else, but that's where it started. And so we've been around for a long time. We're currently in 19 countries, over 75,000 students across the world. And in the United States, we've been here for going on 10 years now, and started in the Midwest at a school that was sort of an unlikely place to start, but it was in the middle of the Midwest by a university that had like 40 different languages at their school. And they started with piloting Grapeseed, and of course it was a great success, and we've been growing sort of organically since then. And we're happy to say that we're expanding sort of rapidly here lately, and we're hitting many of the states across the country. So we're really excited. So today we're going to go over a few things, sort of the importance of oral language acquisition, how Grapeseed works, how our program works specifically, the components that make up Grapeseed, and then we'll talk at the end a little bit about efficacy and a little bit about customer experiences, because that really says a lot about our program. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Julie. She's going to give you all the nuts and bolts. And again, thank you so much for joining us. And I'll talk to you again in just a little bit. So here's Julie. Thanks.
Thanks, Lori. So as Lori mentioned, my name is Dr. Julie Baxa, just Julie is fine. And I taught Grapeseed in my classroom before joining the Grapeseed team. I guess it was 8 years ago now. And so I've been on both sides of the table, so to speak. And so I can speak both as a Grapeseed teacher as well as now being a professional learning specialist. So I'm glad to be here with you today. It's my pleasure. And let's begin with the importance of oral language. Why is oral language acquisition so important? Well, oral language acquisition is important because it's the foundation for the development of all other language and literacy skills and strategies. And so oral language, being that secure base, is what phonological awareness and phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension are all built upon. And it is through oral language that children learn to organize their thinking and focus their ideas. In classrooms throughout the country, oral language is the main mode of communication. For example, teachers teach lessons orally or verbally, and they give instructions verbally. And so if students don't understand the lesson, or they don't understand the directions for a subsequent assignment, they're far less likely to successfully reach grade level benchmarks. A strong foundation, however, in oral language can help students build a bridge to reading and writing. So, for example, including literacy skills like phonemic awareness can be built into phonics, allowing children to learn to both decode while they're reading as well as encode while they're writing. And just like students need math instruction, students need oral language instruction on which to build that firm base for their other language and literacy skills. And sometimes explicit oral language instruction is missing. And sometimes it's there, but there isn't a specific curriculum that teachers can follow. And so teachers seem to be looking here and going there and finding this and sort of piecemealing a bunch of things together, which can cause gaps in children's language and also frustration on the parts of teachers. So let's talk about how Grapeseed works. And what you're going to notice is that I'm going to start like really big with our theory and sort of then funnel down into the details. So let's start with the theoretical framework behind Grapeseed, which is the functional notional approach. The functional notional approach ensures that language is taught and acquired at multiple levels. And that in case you might or might not be aware, this is the same theoretical framework behind the WIDA 2020 standards as well. So what are the levels of language that children must acquire? They're functions and expressions as well as notions. So let's start with functions. A function is the purpose for using language. So some examples of functions are to be able to give someone directions, for example, or to ask and answer questions. Maybe you want to express gratitude or apologize. Functions in language are universal, meaning that every language has functions. In French, for example, we still need to apologize. And when we're speaking Spanish, we still need to apologize. But what's different is that the expressions are different in every single language. And so the expressions are the phrases or words that we put together that we use to express or communicate those functions. And so an example is that if I wanted to apologize, I might say, I am sorry as an expression. And so in addition to saying I apologize, or I'm sorry, I could also say I apologize or I regret. There's different language expressions to meet those functions. And finally, I need to be able to sort of dive down deeper into the notions or that word level. So I need to be able to say what I'm sorry for example, or I need to be able to give directions to somewhere. So those notions include things like people, places, the how much of something. So the somewhere, the something are the notions. So with Grapeseed, students are exposed to language at all of these different levels. They're exposed to words, they're exposed to expressions through sentences and phrases, as well as global messages or those functions of language as well. And this helps them acquire language at many different levels. So you might have noticed that I'm saying acquisition instead of language learning or acquiring language. And so let me talk just for a minute about the difference between language learning and language acquisition. Language learning, you might have even had this experience before. I know I did. I was taking a French class in high school, and it required me to do lots of memorization. So if you've had to take a language class where you had to memorize lots of lists of words, for example, then you've experienced a language learning course. The goal might not be communication at all. Rather, you might have learned some grammatical rules and structures and memorized lists of words. And many of those you might not remember today. I know that I don't remember very much French. And the goal with my French class was never to be able to communicate with my classrooms. Rather, with my classmates, we just really memorized lots of words. In contrast, if we want children to acquire language, we have to first make sure that they understand, that they have some comprehensible input. And our goal then is to go from understanding to speaking and communication with peers, with teachers, with other adults. And so in order for that to happen, we have to give our students lots of opportunities to use language in real situations and not memorize lists of words or grammatical rules. This slide looks very complex, and that's because it is. This type of grammatical learning is not the most efficient learning for children who are acquiring English. And the thing about it is that it shows what some students do in their language classes, where they're learning about a language rather than acquiring it. And so with Grapeseed, you'll never see any sort of instruction like this. If we wanted to teach I like red birds at the zoo, we would have songs and stories and big books and teacher interactions to teach an expression like I like red birds at the zoo. So let's take a quick look at a video to show how with Grapeseed, students might acquire this language.
What color is this?
Red.
Red.
Do you like red? Yes, I do. I like red birds at the zoo. Do you like red? Yes, I do. I like red and I like you.
Do you like red?
Yes, I do. I like red hats and red shoes. Do you like red?
Yes, I do. I like red balls and balloons. Do you like red?
Yes, I do. I like red birds at the zoo. Do you like red?
Yes, I do. I like red and I like you.
So you can see that children will engage in shared reading big books where they'll sing the words one time and read the words one time. They'll be listening and speaking using sentences like this one, as well as getting extra practice with the Grapeseed student app, where they're able to point and read and gain extra practice on their own outside of the teacher-led lesson as well. So we've talked about our large theoretical base. So now let's drill down a little bit and talk more specifically about how Grapeseed works. Grapeseed follows the natural language approach to acquisition. And why is this effective? It's effective because it's a subconscious approach, and it's very pro-child. Children don't even realize that they're acquiring language. Rather, they are listening, they're speaking, they're singing, they're getting up and moving their bodies around. It's very active. They're having fun, and they begin to feel confident because they have that comprehensible input. They understand first before they're expected to speak. So with Grapeseed, our goal is that students become effective communicators, that they acquire the language, beginning with listening, moving on to speaking, and finally reading and writing. They gain that confidence because there's built-in repetition and lots of engagement in a variety of components. And you'll see those in just a minute. We have songs, we have stories, we have poems and chants, action activities, and children engage in conversation with each other and with adults. And as a former Grape Seed teacher myself, as I mentioned earlier, I can speak from experience to say that Grape Seed brings this joyfulness to the classroom and to the students. They have fun and they acquire language at the same time. One part of the natural language approach that you might even be familiar with is the concept of the affective filter. And the affective filter refers to emotions that can impact language acquisition, such as students' motivation, self-confidence, or their levels of nervousness or stress. And given that we're in the middle of a global pandemic and there's lots to be stressed about, it's so important for us to consider our students' emotions and to try as much as we can to bring that affective filter down so that students are feeling confident and engaged and even excited to come to our lessons because their language is coming along, they're able to communicate more with their friends, and they feel confident. And that idea of the lower affective filter goes right along with successful language acquisition becoming faster and easier. If children are engaged and they are participating in our lessons and they're not thinking about something else, they will definitely acquire language faster. Grape Seed is designed to lower children's affective filter through the components that go together to build our curriculum. So we'll see those components in just a few minutes. We also follow the gradual release of responsibility, where the goal is for students to build independence over time. So as each unit progresses, and then over the course of multiple units, more and more responsibility is passed on to the students. And the really nice thing about this is that this gradual release is planned right into the lesson plan. So it gives teachers and students a clear path toward acquisition and that feeling of independence. We also provide opportunities for formative assessment through our quick checks. We know how important assessment is to providing appropriate instruction. And so teachers will find the quick checks, again, are built right into the lesson plans for you. And this helps maximize efficiency of instructional time. And it also doesn't require teachers to stop teaching to administer lengthy assessments. We know that every school and district has already implemented many assessments, stopping for sometimes weeks at a time their instruction in order to deliver these assessments. So the idea with formative assessment is that we can assess boys and girls right within the lesson and then use those data to inform our instruction for tomorrow. Through a variety of methods that I've already discussed and some others. So the idea of social emotional learning, right? Lowering children's affective filters, having that progression of learning where we don't expect children to know everything right away. Instead, they're going to build independence over time and become confident over time. We are fostering that independence with our students. It also happens through a spiral curriculum because concepts are implemented in a spiral from unit to unit to unit. They're constantly reviewed. So if a student doesn't master something right away, they'll have multiple opportunities for it to come back and for them to master it over time. We also include powerful methodologies such as total physical response, John Asher's work, where children are moving their bodies. And we know that sitting still for young children is stressful. And so if we can get them up and moving and acquiring language at the same time, that also helps to lower that affective filter and support their emotional learning as well. The idea that we're really meeting children's needs. And because we're infusing joy and maintaining that low affective filter at the heart of our natural language acquisition approach, Grape Seed students feel a sense of consistency. They feel a sense of safety during their lesson, and they're having fun as well. I'll give you a minute to look at the standards on the screen. We are aligned with all of these standards, and if there is a specific set of standards that you use that you don't see on the screen, please feel free to ask about those as well. So what does Grape Seed look like in a typical classroom? Well, Grape Seed is being implemented into the school day in a variety of ways. It's flexible and it's able to meet your needs as a teacher and as a school. Teachers can provide push-in instruction or pull-out instruction. They can use it with whole classes of children or for small group intervention. You'll also be happy to know that we have solutions for in-person socially distanced instruction, which allows teachers to provide effective instruction while keeping students safe. We also have tools for teachers who are engaged in virtual instruction and meeting with students via a platform such as Zoom or Google Meet. For best results, we do recommend that lessons last about 30 to 40 minutes for 4 to 5 days a week. But again, we do understand that we are in the middle of a global pandemic, and so rules and procedures may have been put into place that won't allow for that amount of time to be spent with a particular group of children. So we can work with you and your teachers regarding length of time and the number of days for lessons as well. So again, we're kind of coming down in that funnel, and now we're going to take an even deeper look at the components of Grape Seed that support oral language acquisition. So Grape Seed is unit-based, and typically in a school year, a teacher would teach 5 units in a year. There are about 30 school days in each unit, so that leaves some leeway for other things that have to happen too, is like assessments and all of that. You can see on the screen our unit components. Grape Seed has 2 overall goals. One is to help students acquire oral language. So the first set of components that you see in the list are our verbal skills components, which help children acquire language functions and expressions and notions. And then the second set of components goes along with our second goal, which is to help children build the bridge to being readers and writers. And so children will, in addition to acquiring language at a variety of levels, they'll also be exposed to large print where they can point and read, and they'll be learning concepts about print and beginning reading skills and strategies. And finally, we have our student components as well. And these student components reinforce both the verbal skills components as well as building the bridge to reading and writing. The next video will give you a deeper understanding of each of the teaching components. And I'll go ahead and press play and get started with the video.
Kelly Young, and I'm the Global Head of Curriculum Development for Grape Seed. Today I'd like to talk to you about each of the components that we have in our program and what we use them for. each of the components, whether it's songs or poems or action activities, have a specific purpose. We know that there are many things that lead to learning a language, and we've divided those into different components to teach different things. And so everything has a purpose, and together they make a rich language learning opportunity. Action activities include action words and commands so that students learn to listen carefully to the teacher. It gives them an opportunity for kinesthetic learning, and it actually gives them a break from sitting. Our songs are jam-packed with vocabulary words, and each one provides the words in different contexts, so students have a much richer understanding of each word. Shared reading big books are just what they sound like. They're big books that teachers use to teach the concepts of print. So the fact that in English language, the print goes from left to right and from top to bottom, how you open a book, those are the very beginning ones. But also as you go through, you learn about punctuation, you learn about decoding words and blending sounds together to make words. We use chants in Grapeseed to help students with language functions. They are a call and response. So it's question and answer. It really helps them to understand language functions and how to use them in conversation. So as students learn them and memorize them, they can take those same language functions and use them in regular conversation outside of the classroom. We use stories in our curriculum because stories are engaging for kids. It helps us to use both language functions and the vocabulary that they're learning. Through telling the stories, teachers can use gestures and they can use facial expressions, and they get students involved in the storyline. The vocabulary picture cards each contain one word with an illustration of that word. The reason we use them is because it helps students when they're hearing one word at a time to be able to connect it with a picture, to understand what that word means. Eventually, they can also use the letters that make up the word to be able to recognize certain words when they're reading. We use phonogram cards to help students connect the sound that they hear with the phonogram and the physical appearance of the card. They are connecting what the letter looks like with the sound, and then learning how to use that when they build the sounds together to make words. Every unit has a story dictionary that is chock full of vocabulary and language functions from the previous unit. We want review to be built in strategically in our curriculum, and so by using the story dictionary, students have an opportunity to continually review what they've learned previously to help move it from short-term to long-term memory. Shared reading poems are the other part of our shared reading time. It's the other language arts component where students are learning concepts of print, except for with this one, they also learn rhyming. Another important component of our program that doesn't happen during TSI class is REP, and that stands for Repeated Exposure and Practice. And we know that the more opportunity students have to be exposed to English, the faster they'll learn. And so REP happens outside of TSI class, either in the school or at home, hopefully both, where students just get more practice, more time with the components that they've learned in the classroom. Grapeseed is a comprehensive curriculum because we have a scope and sequence, we have a path for students learning, we have objectives for every component that we use, we have formative assessment built in, and teacher support, so everything that you would need in a curriculum we provide.
So I hope you enjoyed the video and got some information about each of our components. We also have some digital components to our program as well, because our goal, of course, is to help you as the teacher and school administrators, as well as your students and their families, to get the very most out of Grapeseed. So we have several different portals, a portal for students, a portal for teachers and administrators, as well as a portal for families. So let's take a look at some of the features of the portals. Our Grapeseed student app can be accessed either through a web browser, or it can be downloaded as an app. So families and teachers can download through the Google Play Store if they have a Chromebook. If they have an Apple product like an iPad or an iPhone, they can download through the Apple App Store. Or if they have a Kindle, they can download through the Kindle App Store. And then again, they could use it on a browser as well. And the student app is designed to guide students through the content of the unit on a steady pace to help comprehension grow over time and to help language acquisition grow over time rather than in infrequent bursts. And so as children move through the playlists, they're also given fun opportunities for interaction to gauge their knowledge of the content. In this video, you're going to have a fun time seeing one of our students use the student app at home. So a lot of change has gone on in our world over the last couple of years. And this little guy and his family moved to the United States mid-pandemic. And so his class was not meeting in person. He wasn't able to go to school with some friends or, be with his teacher in person, but he was able to use the Grapeseed app in his own home. So let's listen as he engages, and his mother encourages him as well.
Here is Panda.
Panda es uno.
¿Cuál es Panda?
Panda toco este.
No, ¿cuál es? Tú sabes. Dale.
Yo creo ¿tú crees?
Escucha.
Where is the brother?
Brother.
Este es correcto.
Brother.
It's fun time. Learning the letters K and
K.
Repita.
K.
Kangaroo.
Book.
Sky.
Guys.
Zoo.
You.
I like the animals at the zoo.
It's so encouraging to see his smile and his engagement as he begins to acquire English, laughing and giggling and having a great time. Our student app, again, is set up in playlists for repeated exposure and practice to the language being acquired in that unit. It's easily accessible both at school and at home for teachers at school and families at home. And students can watch and participate at their convenience. Again, if they're having at-home learning time, and again, during the school day as well. In addition to the student portal or the student app, there's also a portal for teachers and administrators. And the Grapeseed Teacher Portal provides a library of tools to support teachers sort of behind the scenes when it comes to their Grapeseed instruction. And one way that it does that is in the area of management. Teachers are able to manage their class lists, adding and deleting students in their classes. They're also able to monitor their students' interaction in the app, how many playlists they've done and how long they've spent there, for example. They can control when students move on to the next unit, and they can send invitations to parents for parents to join the parent portal. In addition, we have a resources tab, which houses our digital content library, and this is definitely a teacher favorite. The content library allows teachers to access any of the Grapeseed components, any part of the curriculum digitally. So if they wanted to go home and do some planning at home over the weekend, they don't need to drag their teacher manual or lesson plans home. Rather, they can just log into the teacher portal and have digital access to the teacher manual and the lesson plans. They can also have access to audio and video files so that they can get to know the materials before they begin teaching and so forth. It also gives teachers the opportunity to grow as a Grape Seed teacher because there's a teacher training or professional development platform where teachers can see other Grape Seed teachers or coaches like myself and watch those people having Grape Seed lessons and teaching Grape Seed components in action. So they get to have professional development sort of on demand whenever it suits their schedule. There's also a report site where teachers and administrators can see school and building information, again, seeing how much student usage their children have engaged in and get lots of data as well. In addition, teachers are able to access the lesson viewer in the teacher portal. And so earlier I mentioned that Grape Seed has digital tools available for teachers who are providing socially distanced lessons. You saw in the video with Kelly Young, our global head, that we have our teaching cards. But in a time when children are not able to sort of gather on the carpet with us and be close together, but rather they need to be spread out throughout the classroom, we have our digital components through our lesson viewer, which has been designed to allow children to be able to spread out throughout the room and still be able to see clearly all of the components. Teachers could also use these components for online lessons on Zoom or Google Meet. The lesson viewer has ready-made presentations based on the lesson plans for every single lesson. So in other words, every component, every vocabulary picture card, every song, every big book, every page of every story is put into a pre-made presentation and it's ready to go for teachers. So they bring it up on their smartboard and they can click through with their clicker and have an entire Grape Seed lesson that's socially distanced and safe. Teachers find it really simple to navigate. And again, this is on the teacher portal for teachers to access at any time. Another feature that sets us apart from other curriculums is that Grape Seed partners with each teacher and school to provide ongoing support throughout the year. So first, we provide practice-based foundation training to prepare teachers to implement the program, where attendees are introduced to the program and given time to practice and teach each one of the components right during the training. So when they leave, they feel confident to get ready and start teaching the Grape Seed curriculum. During that training, we prepare teachers for both in-person as well as online instruction. In addition to the initial foundation training day, a professional learning specialist is assigned to each Grape Seed teacher to offer support throughout the school year. And the support is dependent on the teacher, and it allows for the teacher to choose support that best suits their needs. So it's individualized according to teacher needs. In addition to that, on the second Tuesday of every month, teachers receive access to webinar-based professional development. Again, we know that everyone's time is precious and everyone's schedule is different. So these are on demand and teachers can go in and engage with them at any time that's convenient for them. And of course, teachers can call or email or text us at any time for support or even to share success stories. At this point, I'd like to turn it back over to Lori Metz. Lori?
Thanks, Julie. That's great. Hopefully that gave everybody a little bit of a glimpse into Grape Seed. I'm going to talk a little bit now about sort of customer experiences, which is really important, and also just the success of the Grape Seed program. So as Julie said, we have assessments built into the daily lesson plans so that teachers get to have a really good handle on how their students are progressing. We do not have, an end of semester, end of unit assessment because so many of our schools are using already WIDA or ELPA or even just NWEA or whatever assessment schools are using. They will see significantly higher test scores in all areas for their Grapeseed students. And as an example of this, we've done a couple of different independent studies. One was done by the University of Michigan and Oakland University with a school in Michigan, Berrien Springs. And they looked at their ELL students. And basically what they found, which is pretty incredible, is that 70-40% of their English language learners achieved reading proficiency in less than half the time of the national average. So that was about less than 2 years, and the national average is 4 to 6 years. We also did another independent study with the Schaefer Evaluation Group that looked at schools in Indiana using Grapeseed, and they found very similar results. They were running at about 67% of children were at grade level proficiency in less than 2 years. Actually, most of them, it was 1 year. And that study is still in progress. It got a little bit side railed with COVID, unfortunately, but it's still going. So we're looking forward to those results. And then another case study that was done was with Chambersburg School District in Pennsylvania. And they were using NWEA MAP, and basically found that grade 2 ESL students from fall of 2016 to spring of 2017 improved an average of 5 reading levels. Excuse me, I said that they were using NWEA, but they were actually using the Next Step guided reading assessment. So as you see, it's really, really sort of crazy almost the difference that schools see when using Grapeseed. Whatever assessment you're using, you will see significant results. And we actually have most of our schools, as I mentioned, in 1 year, you'll see differences. We have one of our schools, again, in Indiana, that has a huge refugee population that comes into America with absolutely no English, and they all get Grapeseed for that first year. And after 1 year, it's amazing. Very few of them actually need any support going forward. It's pretty incredible. So that even that 1 year gives them that foundation they need. And anyway, I know there's a lot of information here, but if anybody's interested in seeing specific studies, I could send you those independently, email them to you later so that you can study the white papers and get a little glimpse for yourself. That's some of the numbers. And another great thing about Grapeseed, just sorry, quite ready yet, Julie, is just and Julie touched on this a lot, is just what the teachers say so much is that student confidence is increased so much, which then of course rolls over into every other part of their day and their life, basically. So, okay, and now we're going to show you a little testimonial by one of our teachers. This is Mitch. He teaches at a school in Indiana, and he's been teaching ESL for a very long time. And what Mitch says in this testimonial, I think will be so familiar to you. It's like one of the things, I work with a lot of schools all over the country, and it's so sort of crazy how everybody says the same things. As ELL teachers, everybody is sort of searching and just hoping that they're finding the right resources and materials for their students to be successful. And one of the great things about Grapeseed is they have the confidence knowing that they are, in fact, giving the kids everything they need, and they don't have to spend all their time looking. So anyway, Mitch can say it better than I can. So here is Mitch.
So I've been teaching ESL here at Chandler for 17 years. And when I first started teaching ESL to these elementary kids who are arriving from different places, I felt like I was having to pull things together myself. There was a small curriculum that was there for us, but it really needed a lot of work to make it happen. And so I never really felt quite settled in what I was doing with my newcomers. I felt like, it was adequate, but it wasn't as engaging. They weren't as engaged as I wanted them to be, as I hoped they would be in the poetry and the songs that I was finding for them. Then, when my colleague Karen started using Grapeseed, because she started using Grapeseed a couple years before I was able to, she was talking so highly of it, and I felt like she was a Grapeseed disciple or a Grapeseed evangelist. And I thought, what Kool-Aid have you drunk? Like, what is this stuff? And then I was able to come into the program and use the curriculum myself a few years after she started. And I was astounded at how you have everything you need. You have all these engaging songs and poems and stories, and the kids are so into it. Even kids that are older than some of our colleagues at other schools would go with Grapeseed. We use Grapeseed with K to 5, whoever is just beginning to learn English, and no kid ever says, this stuff is too baby for me. This stuff is boring. All the kids want to come to the Grapeseed lessons. They're all engaged. And they come back singing the songs and saying the poems from memory. So we know that they take the stuff home and listen to it because it's fun. And like I said, that's something that I couldn't get when I had to pull everything together myself. Having all of this curriculum ready to go for me frees up my brain, so I have more energy to put into using what's there and making it even more engaging for the kids. I don't have to spend so much time finding things myself. It's just all there for me, and I love that.
Alrighty, hopefully, I bet that sounded familiar to all of you that are on. So basically the overall benefits of the Grapeseed program. Now, Julie, if you could switch that slide to the next one, that would be awesome.
Sorry, I was just saying goodbye to Allison. She was typing in the chat.
Okay. All righty. And just, as Mitch, and if you talk to any of the Grapeseed teachers, here's just a few testimonials, but I think one of the greatest things of my job is just getting to see that Grapeseed is life-changing, not only for the students that are in the program, but also for teachers. And I think that's a really great thing, besides not only having all of the resources, but also, as Julie mentioned earlier, all of the support that goes along with the program. Teachers really feel like they are doing the best thing possible for their young ESL students. So basically, to summarize a little bit the benefits of the Grapeseed program, as you could probably tell, that high student engagement is key to success. Kids love going to the Grapeseed programs, teachers love teaching it, and just having those kids so engaged is such a key. Children develop those skills and knowledge that go into listening and speaking, which of course then directly correlate to reading and writing and communicating, which is awesome. And then again, it's a comprehensive, proven program, as Mitch said, so teachers don't have to search and use their energy and time hoping. So with that, we did have a couple of other questions that I wanted to make sure that we answered that people had submitted when they entered for or registered for the webinar. I think we answered most of the questions, but just really specifically, somebody had asked what ages and grades that Grapeseed is best for. And typically, and Julie, feel free to pop in here if you want to. And you guys, we'd love it now if you could turn on your cameras if you want to join back in for this question and answer part here at the end. But Grapeseed, sort of our sweet spot is K through 2, but many schools use it for preschool as well. So preschool through 2nd grade, and then also older newcomers. As Mitch said, like at his school, they use it through 5th grades. Many of our schools use it actually higher than that. Through middle school, we have a few that use it through high school, and we actually have a school that uses it with adults even in their adult program. So for anybody that's new to the English language, Grapeseed is an awesome base. And I also wanted to mention that we have 3 years of curriculum. So basically everybody starts with Unit 1, but after that, then, so everybody starts at Unit 1. Older kids will get through the units maybe a little bit faster, but it is, a spiraling curriculum. So everybody starts there, but then we do have 3 years of curriculum. So if, say, your kindergartners start in, first year, we do have curriculum for 1st and 2nd grade as well, which is great. And we can help schools do staggered starts and make it the most efficient way to use the program possible. And that's what Julie and our other professional learning specialists do, is they'll work with schools to figure out how to best implement Grapeseed to be successful. And then I think was there one more? Oh, another question was, can this program be used in a childcare center or learning center? And yes, definitely. We have schools that use Grapeseed in many different ways. After school programs, we do have learning centers. We have before school. We have regular, we actually had we have quite a few preschools that use it. So Grapeseed, it's really interesting to me to see how all of the schools that we work with use Grapeseed in different ways to make it successful for their specific needs. And then I see there's another question here. Is Grapeseed just mostly for newcomers, or is it good for all levels of BLLs? Julie, why don't you answer that question? You can answer it a little bit more specifically.
Sure. So as Lori mentioned, we do ask that all of our students start with Unit 1 so that it doesn't create any language gaps. But we do have students who are not newcomers that are using Grapeseed. And Lori mentioned doing staggered starts and some students going faster than others. And as she mentioned, that's sort of our role as professional learning specialists to work with you with your specific case to figure out the best way to implement Grapeseed in your school district. So if you have students that are not newcomers, that are kindergartners, but are still qualifying for services, or they're in first or second grade and still qualifying for services, yes, they would be good candidates for Grapeseed as well.
Yes. Awesome. Does anybody have any other questions? And feel free to, you can talk now if you want to come back on here at the end. We'd love to see your faces.
Yeah, there was one more question that we received before, which was, does this curriculum tie in phonemic awareness and literacy skills? So I think that I pretty much answered that during the presentation, but yes, we absolutely do. Our oral language components focus on those language functions and expressions and notions, and then our building the bridge to reading and writing components focus on phonemic awareness and phonics and concepts about print, those early reading skills and strategies that students need. As you get further into the units, there's also a component that children work on stroke order along with the phonics skills of connecting the written letter with the sound that it makes at the same time. So yes, it definitely incorporates phonemic awareness and other literacy skills as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Julie.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. And so what I would love, like if you guys would like to meet after this and, talk a little bit about your specific needs, I would love to get your information, and then I could provide you with a quote and we could talk about how to best implement. That would be awesome. So my email is up here on the screen, and I would love to hear from you, and we could talk specifically how to make it Grapeseed successful for your students and for your teachers. All righty. Well, if you guys don't have any more questions, I guess we will conclude today. And we thank you again so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. I know everybody's so crazy busy, so we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us this afternoon. All right. Well, thank you. And thanks, Julie. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.